I was 16 when I first felt the sting of his hand. It wasn't just the physical pain that burned. It was the way it broke something inside me, something I didn't even know could break. My name is Olivia, and this is my story, not the polished kind you see in movies, but the raw, messy truth of a girl trying to find her way through a world that felt like it was always against her. I grew up in a small town, the kind where everyone knows your name, but nobody really knows you. My mom was a single parent, working double shifts at the diner to keep food on the table. My dad, he left when I was 3, and I don't have a single memory of him. Just a blurry photo mom kept in a drawer, one she'd look at when she thought I wasn't watching. I think she loved him still, even after he broke her heart. Maybe that's why I ended up loving someone who broke me too. His name was Ethan. I met him in high school, junior year. He was tall, with dark hair that fell into his eyes and a smile that made my stomach flip. He was the kind of guy who could make you feel like you were the only person in the room. When he looked at me, I felt seen. For a girl like me, quiet, a little awkward, always fading into the background, that meant everything. We started dating a few months after we met. It was small things at first, holding hands in the hallway, sneaking kisses behind the bleachers, late night texts that made me smile in the dark. He was sweet, or at least I thought he was. He'd bring me flowers he picked from his mom's garden, write little notes, and slip them into my locker. I thought I'd found someone who really cared about me. I was wrong. The first time Ethan hit me, it was over something stupid. We were at his house watching a movie, and I laughed at a scene he didn't find funny. I don't know why it set him off. Maybe he was already mad about something else, or maybe he was just looking for a reason. His hand came down fast, a slap across my cheek that left my ears ringing. I froze, my heart pounding so loud I could barely hear his apology. "I didn't mean it, Liv," he said, his voice soft, his eyes wide with regret. I got upset. It won't happen again. I believed him. God, I was so naive. I wanted to believe him because I loved him, because I thought love was supposed to hurt sometimes. My mom's tired eyes, the way she'd cry over that old photo of my dad. I thought that's what love looked like. So I stayed. I stayed through. The apologies, the promises, the moments when he'd hold me and tell me I was his everything. And for a while, things would be good again. He'd be the Ethan I fell for, and I'd tell myself the bad moments were just a fluke, but they weren't. The slaps turned into pushes, the pushes into shoves. Once, he grabbed my arm so hard it left bruises in the shape of his fingers. I started wearing long sleeves, even in the summer, to hide the marks. I told myself it wasn't that bad, that he didn't mean it, that he was just stressed. School, his parents' fights, the pressure of being the star of the football team, it was a lot for him, right? I made excuses because I didn't know how to stop loving him. My mom noticed something was wrong. She'd ask why I was so quiet, why I flinched when she hugged me too fast. I'd lie, say I was just tired or stressed about school. I didn't want her to know. I was ashamed, not just of what Ethan was doing, but of myself for letting it happen. I felt like I was failing at love, like I wasn't good enough to make him happy. If I could just be better, prettier, funnier, more understanding, maybe. He had stopped by the time I was 18. I barely recognized myself. The girl who used to sing in the shower, who dreamed of going to college and becoming a writer, was gone. In her place was someone who walked on eggshells, always waiting for the next explosion. Ethan controlled everything, what I wore, who I talked to, where I went. If I didn't answer his text right away, he'd blow up my phone, accusing me of cheating or ignoring him. I'd apologize, even when I hadn't done anything wrong, just to keep the peace. One night, things went too far. We were at a party, and I was talking to a guy from my English class about a book we both liked. Ethan saw us and dragged me outside, his grip on my wrist like a vice. In the parking lot, he shoved me against his car and hit me harder than he ever had before. My lips split open, blood dripping onto my shirt. People were watching, but nobody said anything. They just looked away like it was none of their business. I went home that night and locked myself in the bathroom. I stared at my reflection, at the bruise blooming on my cheek, the blood crusted on my lip. I didn't cry. I was too numb for tears. But something inside me shifted. For the first time, I asked myself, why am I letting this happen? I didn't have an answer, but I knew I couldn't keep living like this. The next day, I told Ethan it. It was over. I expected him to yell, to beg, to hit me again. But he just laughed, cold and sharp. "You'll come back," he said. "You always do." And for a moment, I was terrified he was right. Leaving Ethan was the hardest thing I'd ever done. Not because I still loved him, I didn't, not anymore, but because he'd made me believe I was nothing without him. For so long, I tied my worth to his approval, his attention, his love. Without it, I felt like I was falling apart, like I didn't know who I was anymore. I didn't tell anyone what had happened, not at first. I was too ashamed, too afraid they'd judge me or worse, pity me, but I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. My mom was the first person I opened up to. It was a Saturday morning, and she was making pancakes, humming an old song under her breath. I sat at the kitchen table, my hands shaking, and told her everything. She didn't say anything at first. She just put down the spatula, walked over, and wrapped her arms around me. I cried then, harder than I ever had. I cried for the girl I used to be, for the years I'd lost to Ethan, for the pain I'd carried alone. My mom held me the whole time, her own tears falling into my hair. "You're stronger than you know, Olivia," she said, "and you're never going back to him." She was right, but it wasn't easy. Ethan didn't let go quietly. He'd call me at all hours, leaving voicemails that swung between apologies and threats. He'd show up outside my house, waiting in his car, watching me. I was scared all the time, jumping at every noise, checking over my shoulder wherever I went. I started seeing a counselor at school, Miss Carter, who helped me understand that what Ethan did wasn't my fault. She taught me about abusive relationships, about how they trap you, make you feel like you're the one who's wrong. Miss Carter also helped me get a restraining order. It wasn't a magic fix. Ethan still found ways to get to me, like sending messages through mutual friends or showing up at places he knew I'd be. But it was a start, a way to take back some control. I also started journaling, pouring out all the things I couldn't say out loud. Writing became my lifeline, a way to make sense of the chaos inside me. School was harder. People whispered about me in the halls, calling me dramatic or saying I was lying about Ethan. Some of his friends spread rumors that I cheated on him, that I provoked him. It hurt, but I tried to focus on the people who mattered. My best friend Sarah stuck by me through everything. She'd sit with me at lunch, listen to me cry, and remind me that I was more than what Ethan had made me believe. Slowly, I started rebuilding myself. I joined the school newspaper, something I'd always wanted to do but never had the courage for. Writing articles, even small ones about school events, gave me a sense of purpose. I wasn't just Olivia, the girl who dated Ethan. I was Olivia, the writer, the dreamer, the girl who was starting to believe she could be something more, but the fear never fully went away. One night, Ethan broke the restraining order. He showed up at my house, drunk, banging on the door and yelling my name. My mom called the police and they took him away, but not before he smashed a window and left me shaking in my room. He was arrested and his parents sent him to a boarding school out of state. I didn't see him again, but the damage was done. I had nightmares for months, waking up in a cold sweat, convinced he was still there, thought. I graduated high school with decent grades, enough to get into a community college a few hours away. I wanted a fresh start, somewhere nobody knew my story. I packed my bags, hugged my mom goodbye, and moved into a tiny dorm room with a girl named Mia. She was loud, funny, and completely unaware of my past. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. College was a new world. Nobody knew about Ethan, about the bruises or the tears. I could be whoever I wanted. I threw myself into my classes, especially my writing courses. My professors saw something in me, encouraging me to keep going, to tell my story. I started a blog, anonymous at first, where I wrote about what I'd been through. I didn't expect anyone to read it, but people did. Comments poured in from strangers, mostly women who'd been through similar things. Their words made me feel less alone, like I was part of something bigger. But even in this new life, the past wasn't done with me. One day I got an email from Ethan. He'd found my blog somehow, even though I'd been careful. "I know you're writing about me," he wrote. "You're making me look like a monster. You need to stop, or you'll regret it." My heart stopped. I thought I'd escaped him, but there he was, reaching across the distance to pull me back. Ethan's email shook me to my core. I thought I'd left him behind, but his words brought everything rushing back. The fear, the shame, the feeling of being trapped. I didn't tell anyone about it at first. I was too scared, too embarrassed. I'd worked so hard to build a new life, and now it felt like he could take it all away with a single message. I showed the email to Mia, my roommate. She read it, her eyes narrowing, and then looked at me. "Olivia, you need to report this." She said, "This guy's not just a creep, he's dangerous." I knew she was right, but part of me still felt like I was overreacting. What if people thought I was making it up? What if they blamed me like they did in high school? Mia wouldn't let it go. She dragged me to the campus security office where I filed a report. They took it seriously, contacting the police in my hometown to let them know Ethan had violated the restraining order again. I also told my counselor at college, Dr. Ellis, who helped me process what I was feeling. She reminded me that Ethan's actions weren't my fault, that he was the one choosing to hold on, not me. Still, I couldn't shake the fear. I started checking my email obsessively, waiting for another message. I stopped writing on my blog, too afraid he'd find me again. I felt like I was losing myself all over again, like I was back in that bathroom, staring at my bruised reflection. But this time, I had people in my corner. Mia, my professors, Dr. Ellis, they all reminded me that I wasn't alone. I decided to take back my power. I started writing again, but this time I wasn't anonymous. I used my real name, Olivia Harper, and I told my story in full. I wrote about the abuse, the fear, the shame, but also the strength I'd found in leaving. I posted it on my blog, and to my surprise, it went viral. People shared it, commented on it, reached out to tell me their own stories. I realized I wasn't just writing for myself anymore. I was writing for all the girls like me, the ones who felt trapped, who thought they'd never escape. But with the attention came new challenges. Some people didn't believe me. They left comments calling me a liar, saying I was just looking for attention. A few even said I deserved what happened because I stayed with Ethan for so long. It hurt, but I tried to focus on the positive. For every cruel comment, there were 10 more from people who said my story gave them hope, who said it helped them leave their own abusive situations. One day, I got an email from a woman named Rachel. She was a producer for a small YouTube channel that focused on real-life stories. She read my blog and wanted to feature me in a video. At first, I was terrified. Writing was one thing, putting my face and voice out there was another. What if Ethan saw it? What if he came after me again? But Rachel was kind and patient, and she convinced me that sharing my story could help even more people. I flew to her studio in Chicago, my first time on a plane. I was nervous the whole way, but when I met Rachel, I felt at ease. She had a warm smile and a way of making you feel like you mattered. We spent a day filming, just me talking to the camera, telling my story the way I'd written it. It was raw, emotional, exhausting. I cried more than once, but Rachel didn't push me to be anything I wasn't. She let me be real. The video went live a month later. I watched it with Mia, my hands shaking as I hit play. Seeing myself on screen was surreal. I looked small, vulnerable, but also strong in a way I hadn't realized I was. The response was overwhelming. Thousands of people watched it, leaving. Comments about how my story resonated with them. I got messages from women all over the world thanking me for speaking out. For the first time, I felt like I was making a difference, but Ethan wasn't done with me. A few weeks after the video went live, I got another email. This one was different, angrier, more unhinged. He'd seen the video and he was furious. He called me names, said I was ruining his life, that he'd make me pay. I was scared, but I was also angry. I was done letting him control me, I reported. The email to the police, and they tracked him down. He was living in a different state, working a dead-end job, still carrying the same rage. They arrested him for violating the restraining order again, and this time he faced real consequences. A judge sentenced him to 6 months in jail and mandatory counseling. I don't know if it changed him. I hope it did, for his sake and for anyone else he might hurt, but for me it was closure. I could finally let go of the fear that he'd always be there, lurking in the shadows. With Ethan out of my life, I felt like I could finally start living. I threw myself into my writing, my classes, my friendships. I started making videos of my own, not just for Rachel's channel, but for my own YouTube channel. I called it Olivia's Truth, a place where I could share my story and others like it. I talked about abuse, mental health, healing things I wished someone had talked about when I was younger. I wasn't an expert, but I was honest, and people responded to that. My channel grew slowly at first, but by my second year of college, I had a small but loyal audience. I'd get messages from viewers saying my videos helped them feel less alone, gave them the courage to leave toxic relationships, or just made them laugh on a bad day. It wasn't about the numbers for me, it was about the connection. Every comment, every message reminded me why I was doing this. I also started working with a local women's shelter, volunteering my time to help other survivors. I'd lead writing workshops, encouraging them to tell their stories, even if it was just for themselves. It was healing for me too, seeing these women, some younger, some older, find their voices. I realized that helping others was helping me heal. Piece by piece, that healing wasn't a straight line. There were days when the pain came back, sharp and heavy, like a knife in my chest. I'd have flashbacks of Ethan's hands, his voice, the way he made me feel so small. On those days, I'd curl up in my dorm room, unable to get out of bed. Mia would sit with me, sometimes talking, sometimes just being there. She never judged me, never told me to get over it. She just let me feel what I needed to feel. Dr. Ellis helped me work through those moments. She taught me coping strategies like grounding exercises and mindfulness that helped me stay present when the past tried to pull me under. I also started therapy outside of school with a woman named Dr. Patel who specialized in trauma. She helped me understand that healing wasn't about erasing the pain. It was about learning to live with it, to let it be part of my story without defining me. I graduated college with a degree in English and a dream of turning my channel into something bigger, I moved to a small apartment in the city, got a job as a freelance writer, and kept making videos. My channel grew and I started getting sponsorships enough to pay my rent and keep going. I wasn't rich, but I was free, and that was enough. Then something unexpected happened. I met someone. His name was Lucas, and he was nothing like Ethan. He was kind, quiet, with a laugh that made me feel warm inside. We met at a coffee shop where I was working on a script for my next video. He spilled his coffee on my notebook, apologized 100 times, and offered to buy me a new one. I laughed and told him it was fine, but he insisted on buying me a coffee instead. We talked for hours that day, and for the first time in years, I felt safe with someone new. Lucas knew about my past. I told him early on, not wanting to hide who I was. He listened without judgment, without trying to fix me. He just said, "I'm here, Olivia, whatever you need," and he meant it. He was patient, letting me set the pace, never pushing me to be anything I wasn't ready for. Slowly, I started to trust again. I started to believe that love didn't have to hurt, that even with Lucas, there were moments of doubt. I'd pull away sometimes, scared that I was falling into the same trap I had with Ethan. Lucas never got mad. He'd give me space, let me process, and remind me that he wasn't going anywhere. It wasn't perfect, but it was real, and for the first time, I felt like I was building something good. By the time I was 25, my life looked nothing like I'd imagined it would. My YouTube channel had grown to over 100,000 subscribers, and I was making a living doing what I loved. I was still working with the women's shelter, and I'd started a small nonprofit to help fund therapy for survivors of abuse. It wasn't easy. There were days when I felt overwhelmed, when the weight of other people's stories mixed with my own, but it was worth it. Every time someone told me I'd help them, it felt like a piece of my heart was mending. Lucas and I were still together, navigating the ups and downs of a relationship built on trust and healing. We moved in together, a small apartment filled with books and plants and the smell of coffee. It wasn't perfect. We argued sometimes, like any couple, but it was ours. I learned that love wasn't about being perfect. It was about showing up, even when it was hard. I kept making videos, sharing my story and others. I started inviting guests onto my channel, other survivors, therapists, advocates, who could offer different perspectives. One of my most popular videos was with my mom, who talked about what it was like to watch me go through everything with Ethan. She cried. I cried, and the comment section was flooded with people saying they felt seen. It was one of the most vulnerable things I'd ever done, but it brought us closer. Healed wounds I didn't even know we had. Ethan never contacted me again after his arrest, but I heard through mutual friends that he'd moved across the country, started over. I hoped he'd changed, not for my sake, but for his own. I didn't hate him anymore. I'd let go of that anger, because holding on to it was only hurting me. I wished him peace, but I didn't need him to be part of my life anymore. One day, I got an email from a woman named Sarah, not my high school friend, but a viewer who'd been watching my channel since the beginning. She was 18, living in a small town not unlike mine, and she was in an abusive relationship. She'd watch my videos, read my blog, and finally found the courage to leave. She was scared, unsure of what came next, but she wanted to thank me. "You made me believe I could do it," she wrote. "You made me believe I'm worth more." I cried when I read her email. It wasn't just about her, it was about all. The girls like her, like me, who were finding their way out of the dark. I wrote back, telling her she was strong, that she was enough, that she deserved a life full of love and joy. I told her it wouldn't be easy, but it would be worth it. Email inspired my biggest project yet, a book. I spent a year writing it, pouring everything I'd learned into its pages. It wasn't just my story, it was a guide for survivors, a mix of memoir, advice, and hope. When it was published, I went on a small book tour speaking at shelters, libraries, and community centers. I met so many incredible people, heard so many stories. It reminded me why I kept going, why I kept sharing. Now, as I sit here recording this video, I'm 30. I'm not the girl I was at 16, scared and broken, or even the girl I was at 25, still finding her way. I'm Olivia Herber, a writer, a survivor, a partner, a friend. I'm someone who's learned that pain doesn't define you, but it can shape you into something stronger. I'm not perfect, and my life isn't perfect, but it's mine. And I'm proud of it. Asterisk, if you're watching this and you're in a place where you feel trapped, where love feels like pain, I want you to hear this. You're enough. You don't have to stay in a relationship that hurts you. You don't have to prove your worth to anyone. You are strong, even when you feel weak, and you deserve a life where you feel safe, loved, and free. It's not easy to leave. I know that better than anyone, but it's possible. Reach out to someone you trust, whether it's a friend, a family member, or a counselor. There are people who want to help, who will believe you, who will stand by you. You don't have to do this alone. And if you're not in that place, but you know someone who might be their anchor. Listen to them, believe them, support them. Sometimes all it takes is one person to make a difference. Thank you for watching my story. If it resonated with you, please share it with someone who might need to hear it. Subscribe to my channel for more stories, advice, and conversations about healing and hope. Leave a comment below. Tell me your thoughts, your story, or just say hi. Let's keep this community growing, supporting each other, and reminding each other that we're never alone. Until next time, take care of yourself because you are worth it.